Hello, my name's Harriet Tarlow and I'm going to talk to you today about Salicornia europaea, which is samphire. It's a plant that's a salt marsh plant, which I first encountered on the Lincolnshire coast of the UK, on the east coast. But it's a very common plant that many of you will know, and indeed salt marsh is a common environment that can be found on the coasts all over the world. Um, it's a halophyte. It thrives among other halophytes, so we find it amongst sea lavender, sea blight, cordgrass, all the reeds, the rushes, the purslanes, swader that are common on salt marsh. And behind me, you can see a painting that's in progress by my collaborator Judith, whose paintings appear in my chapter for the book. And this is a sort of entangled salt marsh, and perhaps illustrates why I found it quite hard to choose one plant when asked to do so by the editors of the book. I chose salt marsh because I think that probably is, I chose samphire because I think that probably is the salt marsh plant that first drew me to explore how these halophyte plants work and explore their extraordinary agential powers to respond to the environment they live in, where they have to deal with so many different kinds of water and salination, so salt water, rainwater, river water, the creek that they grow around and amongst in the area where I have worked and explored them for some years now. So how do they do this? Well, they just have this cellular brain, if you like, or a series of brains, which enables them to take rooted decisions and cellular decisions, to shed, to dilute, to change their makeup as they live in this extreme tension, really, if you like, in this extraordinary environment. So I found that an incredibly impressive part of Samphire. I was also very drawn to its pioneer abilities. So along with cordgrass, it's famous for its ability to re-establish salt marsh, or even to establish salt marsh where there has never been salt marsh. So it's actually making the land in which it can thrive by building up sediment, by changing what may be a more sandy or grassy territory into a muddier, saltier territory in which it can flourish. And I also find that to be a fascinating element of it. The east coast in the UK is very much prone to flooding. It's quite a threatened environment. It was, in fact, of course, always a reclaimed environment. So it's an environment that was originally reclaimed from salt marsh. And to some extent, salt marsh is taking parts of it back, or at least in the area that I'm exploring in Lincolnshire. I find that very interesting, that dynamic of a shifting liminal border between land and sea, and what plants can do within that context. They can also build up what might be called a soft barrier, as opposed to the artificial barriers against flooding that are often erected by humans. So if we understand them correctly and work with them correctly, we might be able to do something about environmental conditions in which we live. So there's lots to admire about samphire and its pioneer abilities and its abilities to survive in this very, very difficult environment in which it lives. It's also got a very long and interesting cultural history and an aesthetic history. So I was attracted by its beauty, by its colours, and those are obviously reflected in the paintings that Judith has made about samphire. It changes colour quite radically between various pinks, greens, deep reds in the winter, and you'll be able to see that in the chapter that I've written. But also it has this long history, which it was used for glass making, it was used for soap making, and it's always been eaten. So samphire is delicious. If we can learn to work with it and allow it to thrive, it can help us to thrive in terms of providing us with very nutritious and delicious food, but also maybe even flood barriers if we deal with it correctly. So that's my admiration for the plant samphire, and that's why I wrote my chapter on that plant. Thanks very much.